Yeah, thanks, Fabio. Yeah, so as Fabio said, unfortunately, Melissa couldn't be with us, but hopefully I will be a adequate replacement for Melissa. So I'm going to firstly introduce our team for those of you who aren't familiar. So we are the main product of our team, Literature Services, is Europe PMC, which is a open database of life sciences literature. We have comprehensive access to literature from a variety of sources available to anyone for free. So yeah, we have the primary source of our literature is the NCBI. So we have abstracts from PubMed. We also have abstracts from the US Department of Agriculture's library called Agricola. We have now around 1 million preprints from 32 different preprint servers. These are all life science themed preprints, but we include the abstracts and bibliographic information for them. And of our literature, we have 10 million full text articles, and that is the bulk of that is PubMed Central and the NCBI bookshelf. But we also have some selected preprints as full text. Those were part of a project which has now ended to turn COVID-19 related preprints into full text literature. So the subject of this talk is not really about the database itself, but more about kind of how we're looking at the future of the database and how we're thinking about how we will be changing in the future. So I should say, basically, none of this work was done by me. I'll have a bit at the end when we can talk about who was responsible for this. But yeah, so I'm merely the messenger, and not all of the hard work was done by other people. So the kind of the genesis of most of the content of this talk was kind of thinking about how ChatGPT is and associated tools are going to change how people look for, discover literature and information. So probably, as most people here are aware, ChatGPT was released as a demo around the end of 2022. And within 5 days had attracted over 1 million users. And now the user base is of the order of 200 million users. So obviously that's a very significant proportion of people on the internet using ChatGPT. There's also other competitors. So there's Perplexity, which was founded in 2022 to compete with Google search. There's Gemini, which is obviously Google's product, launched in 2023. And Google has actually integrated, probably as most of you are aware, has integrated their AI offering into their search. So you have that box at the top of a lot of search results, which tells you a kind of AI summary of some of those results below. So apparently, at least when we did our analysis, or when this was written, 13% of US desktop searches had this AI overview. And for a service such as us, we get quite a lot of our users come via web search. So if users are seeing an AI summary, they are potentially not going to look at us. So obviously this is a concern. And also, if they're using ChatGPT or to ask questions instead of going to web search, they're also potentially not going to be coming to us if they have the answer already provided to them by AI. So we conducted some market. Well, we did conduct a few different things. Something we regularly do is focus groups. So we ask different user communities various things about our search. In this case, we're asking how they use AI search, if they're using AI search, if they intend to use AI search in the future. We have an annual survey. So our annual survey has, generally speaking, it has a consistent set of questions from year to year, so we can compare the results. We added a question about AI search to that. So in future, at least, we'll be able to kind of analyze how that changes year to year. And we also, well, I say we, members of the team conducted landscape analysis. So this was kind of trying to understand the landscape of scientific discovery tools to identify gaps in the market, opportunities in that market, kind of to determine what we should do in the future. And this kind of also coincides with our grant renewal cycle, which Melissa submitted the grant earlier this year. So we were kind of thinking how we need to be talking about what we're going to do in the future in the context of what the gaps in the market are. So yeah, that hopefully will make sense. So our focus groups highlighted these user needs, which is assistance with search. So kind of not knowing how to perform a particular kind of search. We have a syntax, but this can be quite complicated to use, you know, choosing, you know, the date parameters, authors, journals, mesh, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of complexity in there, which most users are not familiar with at all. So something that we noted was that people want more assistance with that. Summaries. So this is obviously something quite hot at the moment. Not necessarily wanting to read a bunch of search results and wanting to kind of get a summary in the context of what the search is something that users want. Discovering connections. So identifying literature related to what they're reading. You know, you've read one article, you can obviously go and read the citations, but maybe you want to have a more hand-holding version of that potentially, or something that's more deep and gives you a kind of deeper connection between areas of work. Transparency and reproducible results. So this is actually kind of an interesting one in the context of AI. So certain subsets of users, for example, librarians, people doing systematic searches, when they do a search, they want that search to come back with the same results time and time again, or at least the same results with the new ones added. With kind of AI-based searches, you can end up with this kind of non-deterministic recall of results, which is not ideal in certain use cases. So something we do at the moment, we do have reproducible results at the moment, and that's not obviously not something that we want to discard. So moving on to the landscape analysis, we found that nearly half of the kind of landscape of scientific discoveries tools use AI in some sense. I mean, a lot of people claim to use AI now, so it's kind of a buzzword. So what that actually means, unclear. But it does include kind of large language models, generative AI, and also kind of conventional machine learning, such as and kind of conventional natural language processing techniques. 22% of the tools were primarily AI based. So these are things like, you know, like Perplexity. Only 22% have free programmatic access. So again, this is something in the context of us, which we kind of have this unique point, which is we have an open API. We want to keep doing that. It's something we can offer over commercial tools, which may have more restrictions on how they use that output. And 30% of them provide summaries of research papers. Now, looking at the annual survey, we had this. As I said, we added this question: how are you currently using AI tools? We got these kind of insights that, you know, there's 40% of our 40% of our respondents are reading the output of AI tools. 27% are writing stuff with AI tools, which is interesting. 40% roughly using it for search. Summarization, 23%. So yeah, there's obviously quite a big penetration into our user base of use of AI tools. And as I said, we will be tracking this over time. So moving on from that, I'm now going to talk about how we measure user needs. So we actually had a new member of our team, Dow, join. Must have been a bit over a year ago, and he has kind of a product background. So he was kind of interested in bringing what is used in the commercial space in terms of analyzing how to develop products into our repertoire. So we obviously, as I'm sure many of you, have an analytics tool that we use with our website, which is called Matomo, and we use this to track where people are interacting with the web page. So we can see, like here, we've got this plot here of interactions with the free full text filter. So that's like people clicking this button to say, I want to see search results that have, oh, why has that done that? Oh, we're good, okay. People saying, I only want to see results that have full text in Europe PMC. So yeah, we get that kind of insight. Something we also began doing is A/B testing. So before DAO arrived on the team, we hadn't done this. I don't know how many of you have ever thought about using A/B testing with your tools, but basically the idea is you're thinking of introducing a new feature, particularly if it's a kind of a user interface feature. You want to know if people will actually use that feature more. So what you can do is you can send half your users or some proportion of your users to see this new feature and some proportion of users to see the old feature and see whether there's an increase in people using a particular feature. So in our case here, we changed this drop-down list on the sort order, changed it to a list of like radio buttons instead. So, excuse me. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's the right way around. Sorry, I didn't, as I said, this is my work. So we A/B tested this and we found that user interactions with this, so the number of percentage of users who were kind of changing the sort order increased by 66% with this new feature. So obviously that's kind of a success. And then we introduced that user interface element. In the same vein, we have this feature for creating search alerts, and we wanted to test whether we could increase the number of people doing that by modifying the UI. So we have this is how it looked before, this create alert button, and we changed this button here. And we found actually this variant reduced the percentage of people who were creating search alerts. So it's kind of an interesting way to get quantifiable data on whether you should be doing something or not. Yeah, so this is kind of an overview of our approach to responding to how we respond to what we're calling emerging user needs. So kind of, AI summarization, things like that. We have this concept of segmenting users by a group or archetype. So we kind of think about, for example, as I mentioned, there's people who are interested in, systematic reviews. There's people who like librarians who are advanced search users. There's kind of people who maybe just come to us through Google. They're just kind of reading one article and leaving. So there's different archetypes, and trying to think about how these different user communities want what their needs are. And we also think about this as in the context of API users. So we have people who use our API to integrate literature into their website. So we also need to think about how different groups of them, so if they're kind of using our API to do bio curation, that's one community, or people who are using it as part of their front end to be able to link to relevant literature to a particular entry in a knowledge base. So that's another kind of user. So yeah, so that's kind of the takeaway there, is just kind of think about different groups of users and what their needs are. We had a project to improve our advanced search. So this is now live, by the way. So if you go to advanced search on Europe PMC, the output of this research is what you see rather than the old version. So we kind of wanted to evaluate the logic and the usability of the new advanced search product. So what we did was we built this minimal viable product of the new version, which basically looked like this. So it's kind of like the trying to get this something prototyped really quickly, and then we monitored with some test users. This was not kind of something we deployed. With some test users, we then monitored how users interacted with that, and then we used that to iterate on the design, and then came up with this final design, which you can see on the website. So these are the other kind of user journeys that we're thinking about. So something that is on our roadmap is this kind of summarization tool. We don't have anything yet, but this is definitely something we're thinking about. Tracking and organization apparently is also something that we kind of want to have in our future product. So at the moment, we have kind of bare bones in terms of saving papers, but this is something that users have said that's kind of important to them. Sharing and exporting. So people want to take their literature search results and kind of transform them and do an analysis on them. At the moment, again, you can kind of export into spreadsheets and stuff like that, but that's something that we want to keep developing to enable these kinds of transformative uses of literature. And keeping up to date, we already have this kind of saved alerts, search alerts feature. But yeah, we want to make sure that users can keep track of literature they're interested in. I'm going to move quickly because I am running out of time. Yeah, this was something interesting we found. We look at our referrals. So this is the users coming onto the website from other websites. And we found that AI referrals from AI, I mean, obviously they've gone up because they started from 0, but it's quite a significant proportion of our referrals now. We compared traffic from January to July 2024 to January to July 2025. And we found that referrals increased almost 200 times from 1,140 to 220,000 in a year. Perplexity also became an emerging referral source. So we had 12,000 referrals from them. Yeah, combined, the AI platforms are a significant number of referrals. It's 232,000. So yeah, these kind of tracking these kinds of metrics can give you kind of insight into what changing user behaviors. Something else we do is we have this, basically it's kind of a database of user research. So it kind of is a tracking of user needs along with evidence. We use Airtable, which allows you to filter based on specific kinds of insights. And then this allows us to kind of work out where to prioritize based on looking at the analysis of this altogether. So this slide is kind of a summary of the future of Europe PMC. We're going to be investigating summarization. We want to introduce semantic search, so being able to search on the basis of genes, diseases, proteins, and so forth. We want to be able to convert natural language queries into search syntax as part of the way of allowing less advanced users to perform more advanced searches. And we also want to develop a vector database to enable new kinds of retrieval based for AI-based tools. So yes, that's all the slides. This is the team in its entirety. So yeah, as I said, I didn't do most of the work here. Most of the work here was done by Dao and Lynn. Dao is our coordinator and Lynn is our UX designer. Yeah, but yeah, that's everything. So I have to take a question or two, depending on time.
Thank you, Matt. Yeah, we have time for one, maybe 2 questions, depending on questions.
Hi, yeah, great talk. I'm just interested in your split testing. So how long did you run? Do you know how long you ran that?
I don't know, I'm afraid. I think we use a tool which basically tells you when it's reached significance.
Okay.
So it tells you when you have enough responses that is significant based on some statistics that I'm not aware of. And then it tells you like, this is the result. So I don't know what the tool is called. I can look that up and tell you if you want.
Yeah, so you said, well, I think 220,000 referrals from ChatGPT, but your PMC gets
Millions.
50 million heads a year.
Yeah.
So it's still a really small number.
It is, but I mean, you have to think about that in the context of if they've referred, that means that we have appeared in their summary and they've said this is the source of that. So some percentage of people are going to see that and not click. I would suggest probably the majority of people. So that you still get that kind of insight.
The split testing, I like the idea. But you have 2 features that's tested. One was 43, and that one was 63 or something.
Yes.
Yes.
So no, one was up and one was down.
Okay.
So it was 66% up and 40% down, I think was the point. One was an absolute increase, one was an absolute reduction.
I mean, but you changed the position of the alert meeting, for example.
Yes.
So that's 2 things we did, 2 changes.
What you mean, the design and the move?
Yeah.
That's a good point. I wasn't to show you that, but you could do it more fine grained.
Oh, yeah.
You could test like 4 variants at once, I think, if you wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah. Great, thanks.